Do perfumers have a signature? And how do different products from the same artist differ? Let's talk about it. Hello, welcome back to Seldomly Often. I'm Daniel. Today we're talking fragrances, and this is a first impression comparison between Amouage Material and Masque Milano Tango. In this video series, I'll be giving my first impression and comparing two fragrances I have little to no experience with, usually in sample form. These fragrances are chosen to cover a specific topic and open a conversation. This is not a fragrance battle, and I'm not necessarily looking to find out which fragrance is the better of the two. This is about evaluating both experiences and talking about it. The topic for today's comparison, or rather topics, are multiple. First of all, we'll be comparing two relatively, or I'm expectingly relatively similar amber fragrances. So we're going to be talking about amber fragrances and what they can offer in the market. Secondly, we'll be talking about how these two amber fragrances from two different houses, but from the same perfumer, Cécile Zarokian, differ or not, and if a perfumer has a signature style to them. Just to remind people how these videos go, I'll be spraying these two on my arms on skin directly, left and right arm. I'll be talking and evaluating initial opening and initial evaporation. Then I'll probably come back after a period of time, it might be a couple hours or more, and talking about the dry down and how they developed and how they compare, and ultimately evaluating them for their value for money and maybe like giving impressions on initial projection, longevity, and target audience. Starting off, in my left hand I have an official sample of Amouage Material, and in my right hand I have a sample, or rather this is more of a travel bottle, of Masque Milano Tango. They're both from Cécile Zarokian. She is a perfumer that I really like. She is the artist behind one of my favorite perfume ever, which is Amouage Royal Tobacco, and some attars, which I'll be smelling with you guys in a first impression video. I don't have any experience whatsoever with Tango. I bought it to experience this with you guys, hoping that I would like it. I usually like amber fragrances, and I have a number of them, so I might be comparing to some other stuff I have. Amouage Material I have smelt some time ago. This is the second sample that I have. The first one I got with an Amouage order a while back. I had a couple sniffs. I never had a full wearing. I thought it was lovely, but I don't really remember it other than being just a general amber scent. So I have no idea on performance or development whatsoever. I ultimately gave the sample away. Before starting, let's talk a little bit about amber fragrances in general. Amber is not a note that can be extracted. It can't be distilled from amber. It's more of an accord. It's more of a combination of things that give an ambery smell. It's usually based on some sort of a resin, some vanilla, maybe some tonka bean, and combined they give this warmth. So I would associate amber more to like a warm feeling, a sort of sweet. It's what you would think amber tastes like and smells like. Now, amber fragrances usually can go two directions. They can go very sweet and more like feminine leaning, with like a vanilla note or just more sweetness. Think about something like Maison Francis Kurkdjian Goût Soir. Or they could go the other way completely with something like Serge Lutens Âme Sultane, which is very balsamic, very spicy, very edgy in a way, while still being ambery. I tend to prefer the Ambre Sultane type of approach. One of my favorite amber fragrances of all time is L'air du désert marocain by Andy Tower. That one, while being very transportative and talking about the Moroccan desert, it still classifies as an amber fragrance in my eyes just because the dry down is basically straight up amber. As a premise for this video, and also to give it some sort of a flow, and also to sort of justify the travel size of Tango, I did some research, and apparently these fragrances should technically smell quite similar. Now, from the reviews I've read and watched, Tango should be a little bit more edgy and animalic, while Material being in the Amouage feminine bottle, although it's unisex, should lean a little bit more sweeter and more feminine leaning actually. The interesting thing about these two, other than them being both amber fragrances, is that they're from the same perfumer. Not only that, they're from the same perfumer, but they're designed 8 years apart from each other. This should give us a good impression of what the development of a perfumer's experience is like, especially a young perfumer like Cécile Zarokian. She's not been in the game for decades like Jean-Claude Helena. It's more like she's new to the game, and I'm really interested to see how her style has developed. Tango came out in 2013 and Material came out in 2021, so big difference here. All right, let's get right into it. I'll be spraying Material on my left arm and Tango on my right arm. I'll be spraying, I would say 3 sprays and seeing what happens. The atomizer from the travel size might be better and might project a lot more, so I'll adjust if necessary. I don't want to have completely different amounts on different arms because that would affect the projection and longevity maybe. All right, let's start up with the Amouage. As usual, shout out to Amouage for their great samples. They come with a cap. The atomizer is really good and they're really fairly priced. If you can get hold of official samples, I would do so. I always have a little bit of a skepticism towards decants, especially if they come from a direct user, not a big website. I mean, what's stopping them from giving me a clone of the fragrance to cheap out and make a better profit? We don't know. But with the official samples, at least we know what they smell like. All right, Amouage Material. Yeah, so the opening is exactly what I remembered. I mean, amber fragrances, it's really hard to reinvent the wheel. Again, if you either go spicy and edgy or vanilla and soft. This one here definitely goes more on the vanilla, soft, and enveloping type of scent profile. Very beautiful. Yeah, initially, again, first thing you smell is some sort of warmth, a lot of like sweetness, I would say immediately. Sweetness and fairly simple scent profiles, pretty straightforward. It does remind me of Grand Soir, which I've tested. But this one here has a little bit more of there's something in the background, something that's giving it a tiny bit of edginess. Maybe some sort of maybe more like a balsam, maybe more of like a smoky incense or something a little bit green and I can't really tell. The vanilla and the warmth is really overpowering at the beginning. But there is something. There's some spice in there. Some green spice that's coming out and giving it a little bit of bite, but just the slightest. I think the opening for this is universally pleasant, very sort of mass appealing. It is actually really well reviewed and really loved on Fragrantica and other sites, just because it is so easy. It's really easy on the nose. It diverts a lot from what your expectations from an Amouage are. Amouage are usually very bold in their opening, specifically the opening. They feature really heavy notes of like spices or maybe herbs, something else. But this one here is very simple. I feel that the green note or whatever it is, maybe a little bit of a balsamic note is cutting through just slightly, a little bit more. And it's mixing in with the vanilla to give a little bit more of I would say a little bit more of an interesting flavor. Not really much else to say for now. It's pretty self-explanatory, nothing groundbreaking. Based on the opening alone, I would say that this one here is a little bit overhyped. Given the Amouage prices, it's really not blowing my socks off, and you could probably find similar things at way cheaper price. Okay, let's go with the Masque Milano. I don't really know much about this brand. I was intrigued about the bottle design. These, the full bottles, I think they come in like a 35 ml. They sort of reminded me of a nasomatto. Given the fact that they're 35 ml, basically a third of the content of the Amouage, they're also sort of like a third of the price of the Amouage. So it really comes down to more or less the same price point per milliliter. I don't have any full bottle of Masque Milano. I only have 2 other travel size sprayers, but I'll get to those in another review. All right, here we go, Masque Milano. Let's see what the sprayer is like. Okay, so it's way better. I'll just go to here. Interesting. Interesting. This right away is more up my alley. Yeah, there is in the Masque Milano I feel that it's lacking the vanilla part of the scent. And this reminds me a lot more of the Serge Lutens approach of like the kind of like the cumin-y, spicy, a lot more balsamic, a lot more oily type of approach. This feels more masculine for sure, although they are both completely unisex. This one here feels just a little bit edgier. This one, this fragrance is, some people say in the reviews that it's animalic. I feel it's really tame. Still tame, but there is that cumin-y aspect there, maybe like a leathery aspect that could give a tiny bit of a sweaty vibe, but very, very tiny. Comparing it to the material is a lot more vanilla still. It's a lot sweeter, it's a lot rounder and softer and smoother. I'll be honest, there's not a massive difference between the two. I'm really sort of like pinpointing the differences due to the fact that I'm able to do an A-B comparison. They really have a lot of the same vibe to them. I feel that both of them are perfumey leaning, meaning that they're not really giving me any kind of a impression, or they're not transporting me, they're not giving me any kind of imagery. They're both kind of generic in the way that they're open for interpretation, just smell good perfumes, just a little bit different. This is interesting because given the fact that they're from the same perfumer, and that they might have the same sort of like budget, because budget really affects a lot of what the perfumer can do. Is obviously if the perfumer is working for like a budget designer, they can't come up with masterpieces, or rather the budget is much more of a limitation compared to if they're working for something like Amouage, which is sort of known to give more of a blank check kind of approach. These two fragrances smell remarkably similar given the fact that they're 8 years apart and from two completely different brands. Maybe it's just a ambery approach. I would say that the ambery backbone, whatever it's made out of, it could be like benzoin or some sort of a resin, maybe like frankincense, something like that, is the same in both. What differs is that the level of sweetness. So Material is way more sweet. I feel that there's a lot more vanilla in it, or like actual vanilla, while the Masque is a lot more green. It's a lot more green and balsamic. None of them are blowing my socks off, really, again. I don't know what I was expecting. To be honest, something like Ambre Sultan from Serge Lutens, I think blows these two out of the water just completely. Not to mention it's way cheaper. That is not counting longevity though. All right, so I don't really have much else to talk about this. Before closing off for the break and seeing how the dry down goes, a couple words on Cécile Zarokian. Again, she is a perfumer that I really like. I really like her approach. She has a modern taste. She is the artist behind one of my favorite perfumes ever, which is Amouage Royal Tobacco. I also really like Silver Oud, and I'll be picking up a bottle of that eventually. So I had high expectations. Some stuff that falls into the more, I guess, mass appealing. Maybe when the creative direction is giving her or giving the perfumer a lot more of a focused approach. In those cases, I think that she sort of, I wouldn't say she lacks imagination, because they're good fragrances. Something like Ani is a good fragrance, although it's a little bit simple, and I sort of get some Ani in these two. There is that like mass appealing kind of like I want to be edgy with exotic materials, but I still keep it tame approach. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but I think that speaking about signature and what a perfumer can have as a signature, her signature, especially for the more mass appealing offerings, is this sort of like a vanilla-y, warm kind of warm ambery vanilla thing going on. And I can definitely pick it up in both of these. I guess we'll see how these evolve. Again, I'm not completely blown away. To be completely honest, at this moment in time, I'm a little bit underwhelmed, and I'm sort of getting buyer's remorse on this 10 ml travel sprayer here. And I'm actually pretty thankful I didn't spring for the whole bottle. All right, so it's been longer than expected. I did some work, I edited some other videos that I have lined up. I sort of forgot about these fragrances. I just looked at the time and I was like, oh crap, it's like 3 hours later. And that is due to the fact that neither of these two have like monster projection, and that their ambery base aspect is similar enough that it's sort of merging together. And without sticking my nose into my arm, it's really hard to tell which one is which. So I kind of forgot about them. That being said, let's see what they smell like and let's see how they evolved. Let's start with Tango. Okay, so the Tango from Masque Milano is a lot less amber than before. I would say that the ambery component has toned down a lot. The fragrance is surprisingly light. I think that the residue of it is more of that green spice. There's a lot more greenery to it. It's pretty fresh, all considered. It's not too heavy. And the warmth and the sweetness is, a lot of it is gone. So I pick up on these spices. It could be like pepper. It could be, I think that there's still the kind of a cumin thing going on. I'm not really sure what else. Maybe there's a little bit of a sweetness still, kind of like a residue of vanilla, but it's a different type of vanilla than Material, because it's a lot more like natural spice smelling. It might be like tonka bean instead of like an actual vanilla pod or whatever. Yeah, it's good. It's fresh. It changed. It didn't really change that much. I'm just surprised that what's left is actually the green and not the amber. Yeah, it's okay. The Amouage here actually dried down very different. This one went to the amber approach, what I was expecting from both of them actually. It retained a lot of the sweetness. I would say that strength-wise, the Amouage is way more noticeable. And even from afar, it's definitely stronger. Again, it's been like 2.5 hours at least. And I would say both of them are pretty much in their dry down at this point. and I don't expect them to change much. All in all, I'm not hugely impressed by either one of them. I have other amber fragrances that I like way more and that I think are more interesting. These are good, don't get me wrong, they're actually good fragrances. It's just that they're kind of boring and redundant in the amber space. I would say that if you want something that leans towards material, clean, sweet, softer, you should definitely go for something like a Grand Soir, which is pretty much half the price. I don't have a ton of experience of wearing that, so I'm not really sure about the longevity, but this one is not something I would categorize as beast mode anyway, so I think it should be pretty comparable. The one thing that the Amouage has, it's a little bit more layers, I think, of interest, but again, it's very tame, and it's not really trying to be anything else than a soft, sweet vanilla. On the other side, if you're leaning more towards like a green, a little bit more edginess, a little bit spicy, I would definitely look into the Serge Lutens Ambre Sultan. That's a bomb of a fragrance. I love it. It's absolutely incredible. It is very edgy, it's fresh, surprisingly. It kind of leads into this direction, but it's a lot more interesting. And also, in that case, it's like half the price. So you can get, where I live at least, Ambre Sultan every day of the week. Like, it's about 60 to 65 bucks for a 50 ml every day. So I think that it's a no-brainer compared to Tango. If you don't have anything and you stumble upon these, would you be upset? Probably not. Would it be a good representation of Amouage? I'm not really sure. Would it be a good representation of Cécile Zarokian's work? Maybe. It could be a good indication of what you can expect from her other offerings, which are a little bit more mass appealing. I think that if you try these and you go from these to Ani or Nashi, or you go from those to these, I think that you'll be not surprised, either in a good or in a bad way. If, on the other hand, your first experience with Cécile Zarokian is something like Silver Oud, and then you go to something like this, expecting it to be this edgy, crazy thing, then you'll be disappointed. But hey, if you're looking for something linear, predictable, if you want the quality of Amouage, I don't think that this is low quality at all. Truth be told, not all Amouages can be these like overwhelming, challenging bombs. They have to offer something which is a little bit more mass appealing just to balance it out. They have to. I think that this is a good choice. The Tango, I really need to try a little bit more of their fragrances to see if they have a theme going on, to see if there's something that connects them. At least from the names, they seem super interesting. There's like I have a Hemingway, which is supposedly some sort of a heavy vetiver, maybe along the lines of Sultan vetiver. And I have Russian tea, which I'll be probably comparing with Oolong Cha, which I've had limited experience with in another first impression. I guess that's it for these two. This comparison could be a shorter video. I'll see you in the editing. In any case, thanks for watching. Thanks for your time. Thanks for all the appreciation. It's super appreciated. And if you have any comments, suggestions, opinions, or just want to talk to me, you can do that down below in the comments. Or you can DM me on Instagram. Another first impressions down. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it somewhat interesting and entertaining. And until next time, cheers.